As Barbados embraces the spirit of We Gatherin 2025, celebrating our culture, our heritage, and the vibrant communities that make us who we are, and as we prepare to host Carry Festa 15, it is fitting that the spotlight now falls on a theatrical gem that has brought joy, laughter, and thought-provoking commentary to Barbadians for 4 decades. Welcome to my community, a mini-series titled Laff-it-Off, 40 Years of Culture, Comedy, and Commentary. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for joining us. People want to know our happy soul, why Barbados come from, why Barbados come from. At the start of this year's series, I wish to thank Sir David Seale and the folks of the People's Market for making this all very possible. Now, what you're about to experience is more than a journey of a theatrical production. It is a cultural institution that has captured the essence of Barbadian and community life through humor, wit, and storytelling. Yes, for 40 years, Laff-it-Off has been a mirror reflecting my community, reflecting our triumphs, challenges, and the unique Barbadian identity, all at the same time connecting audiences from every parish and visitors to our beautiful island, Barbados. In this mini-series, we will celebrate Laff-it-Off's remarkable journey and its contribution to community theatre right here in Barbados. We will discuss its origins, the creative minds behind the scenes, and the impact it continues to have on our society. Laff-it-Off is truly deserving of this moment in the spotlight as we gather in 2025 to honor the legacy of our community's cultural pioneers. Well, as we do with all good theatrical production, my community begins by setting the stage for a closer look at the theatrical landscape in Barbados leading up to the moment when Laff-it-Off first graced the stage in 1985.
Theatre before I came apparently was absolutely alive.
There was Adventure Theatre with Patrick Foster. Alfred Pragnell was part of that. They had Pampalam with Jeanette Lane Clark. I don't know, weekend that there wasn't anything theatre-wise that you couldn't go see. Marvo Manning, Jeanette Lane Clark, Alfred Pragnell, the late Maisie Barker Welch. It was amazing.
There were things like Bimshire that was going on at Commerce School. There was dance and so on happening with the dance theatre and dance experience. So there was a lot of activities going around that time. So it was always somewhere to go. Unfortunately, things are a little quiet now because you'll find people rehearsing in what we call the stables, which was demolished. You go up to the theatre and then in the steel shed was something going on. There was something going on at so many different areas at George Street Auditorium, which was known mostly for theatre, right?
I think back to those days where you had Yoruba Yard with now Dr. the Most Honourable Baba Elambe. You had Shade Leon Slinger and Tony Thompson and Cecily Spencer Cross. And it was rootsy, it was us.
Green Room was in full force. The players, they changed their name to the Green Room Players. They were named Green Room because a green room is a place you sit waiting to go on stage. But they were known as a white theatre company. They had Frank Cullimore, who apparently was a brilliant actor.
You had Olivia Jenkins, who was actually an award-winning British actress who was part of Green Room, and Wendell Smith was in Green Room, and it was a different kind of theatre.
Stage 1 was created by then. Stage 1 was about the mid-70s. Victor Clifford and Earl Warner were constantly on stage playing these two characters. And stage one, again, was concentrating, and I agree with them, on West Indian plays. Green Room had the legacy of only doing English plays, and indeed a legacy which alienated anything West Indian, but along came stage one as a direct counter to the Green Room stance of we will not do West Indian theatre, and they actually openly said that. Yeah, it was racist and ethnocentric by saying the people of the West Indies, or the black people of the West Indies, could not have possibly come to the level where they could create a play. And by the way, the Derek Walcotts had been writing plays, and Middle Holzer was writing books on V.S. Naipaul. So again, racism around. But eventually that was overturned by something called Let's Go Bajan, and that came around the early 80s. And I was involved with that. Cave Hill was also very much involved. The Arts Lecture Theatre was open when Cave Hill was created. I'm now learning that Daphne Joseph Hackett used to be at Cave Hill. Performances used to be held in the Arts Lecture Theatre. So Cave Hill became another performance space. I haven't quite unearthed all of it, but it seems that in the 70s and early 80s, definitely a performance space. Another place of performance, at that time Bruce St. John was here, teaching in Spanish, but really writing and performing his poetry. A space that was used was they call it the Multilingual Center, which is across the road. So there were many performances. Camel Brathwaite would come down and perform. Bruce, I presume, would do things like, every language is a pot of soup. So Cave Hill was a throbbing space as well.
There was something at the time which was also Barbados, with the amazing award-winning Caribbean Ghanese director. It was dinner theatre at Ball's Plantation, and it was a big hit.
Well, that brings us closer to the year 1985. Barbadians are about to be introduced to community theatre like never before. The anticipation was electric. The stage was set and the curtains were poised to rise, unveiling the groundbreaking performance that was Laff-it-Off 1985.
You got to understand what was happening in the theatre world in Barbados. We were going through a kind of a transition. We had just come out of Carifesta 81, which was kind of like a watershed in terms of arts in Barbados. During that period, you had a lot of Caribbean theatre practitioners coming through. So it was a rich time in terms of the arts. We were going through this transition, our movement away from theatre groups, the stage one, the writers' workshop, the Green Room. We were moving away from theatre groups and we were going into the companies.
And in 1984, a group got together and came up with community theatre productions, and it created Laff-it-Off.
Look, boy, all you can do is drink a rum and laugh it off as mad. We got the same problem.
This is very important to the story of Laff-it-Off. Community theatre productions is the rhythm with which Laff-it-Off started.
It must have been the back end of 84. Tory Thompson, myself, and Guy Goring.
They had this meeting, or series of meetings, talking about starting this semi-professional theatre company.
It's a funny story I'd like to share with you. In Jamaica, there are two kinds of folk. There's dryers and wetters. Dryers tend to smoke, wetters tend to drink. I always belonged to the wetters. I never was into the dryers. And I happened to meet a couple of folks that were also into a similar hobby. And once a week we would go out and visit, at that time, the rum shop. Now, today, it's a different ballgame, but 40 years ago, the rum shop really was an institution. It's slightly dying a death now, but 40 years ago, it really was an important community institution. People went to the rum shop, and we would sit there and chat. That was important, the fact that discussion took place within a rum shop.
That's how come Laff-it-Off is set in a bar. Most of these discussions were happening in bars.
Welcome to the Nook and Cranny Bar. We is there, you is there, just enough so laugh it off. Welcome to the Nook and Cranny Bar.
Tom had this idea of doing this review play that looked at issues that happened in the country over the year. And it was basing it on this Jamaican pantomime show that had a long history of performance in Jamaica. We decided, okay, yeah, we can do this. We can create this review show. We're gonna create some stock characters, right? Which will be the main characters. And then what we will do is we'll probably have a guest, invite a guest or two and pull it together.
Laff-it-Off shows up saying, I am going to pay my theatre company, which had never, to my knowledge, been done. You can check it. Laff-it-Off showed up saying I would pay actors, which was really unheard of.
The idea was that we would do a major production and hopefully make some money. That was an important element, by the way. The commercial aspect. The actors in Barbados were a bit sick and tired of earning pennies and peanuts for their talent. They did want to earn some income. And that was important.
I remember there was a Sunday evening. I took Tom to Culloden Farm to meet with Elambe, El Tomatli, and they had these discussions about doing this professional theatre company.
He very smartly selected his cousin, Ian Eswick, who had run calypso tents. So he knew about the commercial aspect of popular culture through the calypso tent. Now that's an important element, by the way, in the development of Laff-it-Off. We cannot forget the calypso tent is a model for Laff-it-Off. But community production was to do an annual show, make some money, and then operate in the community the rest of the year. That didn't happen. It took a long time for discussion to take place before Laff-it-Off actually happened in '85. It must have been around August, September, we started rehearsals for Laff-it-Off.
We did just rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing and planning and planning and planning. And Mr. Eswick, in full Laff-it-Off style, ain't like you say, these people here, like they ain't gonna come up with a date for the show, and they ain't gonna print the tickets. I think it was November, I can't remember the date, but he printed the tickets and he brings them and showed it for me and the other people among the directors, which would have been me, Guy, Ian, and Tom. And so we had a date. So Tom had no, as a director, Tom had no other choice than to put a show together.
The process, how we went about creating Laff-it-Off was what was really interesting as well. We did not work with a script at the top, right? We created the script. So we trash out ideas, we do improvs. Sometimes we come in and we work on a song collectively, and we build it like that, right? So that you have the full input of the players.
The culture of writing your own scripts, although eventually we got Hinkson to write for us, because we would take forever. Sometimes we would start with the first half, and we're scrambling trying to figure out the second half. Show has to open. So sometimes we started with the second half and then we're scrambling trying to finish the first half because the show has to open. So having a playwright was fantastic. But then we would drive Hinkson up the wall because we were known for interpreting what was written. So he might have written the monkey was on the wall. By the time Tony Thompson has dealt with that, it's no longer the monkey on the wall. The monkey is somewhere in there, but it's going to be longer, and Hinkson will get nuts.
And Hinkson, a major theatre voice that has, I'm afraid, never been given the status that he deserved. He was at a genuinely talented writer of drama. He worked extensively with Pinelands, by the way, and he wrote a number of scripts for Pinelands. But it's a voice that should have been heard a long time ago in Barbados.
Well, as our grandparents often said, better late than never. It is in that spirit that this mini-series has been produced to honor and celebrate the remarkable contributions of individuals who have served our people through their various roles in theatrical productions here in Barbados. May Tony Hinkson continue to rest in peace. Now, we are in the year 1985. The creativity of those behind this new production is flowing.
The decision was to at least have a cast of known Barbadian players, because you really wanted to hit the road running. You want to have a cast that people recognize. So the proprietor, H. Cranston Pollard, in charge of the bar.
Well, I ain't got to ask that one I know me. I spent the following you well known JP. Proprietor of the Nook and Granny. I live close side with my wife Nookie. I drink some rum with my friend Lemmy. A belch and a fart and I'm happy. And I don't really care if one I like me, because all I want to do is make enough money.
We had William Powlett as Panty Pollard, who was Cranston's son from another person on another place. We had John Gilmore. Then you had Iroy. I played the character of Iroy, this beach vendor who comes into the bar, frequents the bar, have a drink in the bar.
Hey, who's the ragamuffin on the set? I said, hats off, ladies, if you never met. It's I, Roy, the rest of the man. I said, love and director, what you understand? When it comes to lyrics that could touch my rap, when the tough get going, ooh, I take a snap right here at the Nook and Granny bar.
Thompson, Tick Pop character, Lemuel Rice, who would frequent the bar. And we had Sade Leon, Slinger, who was playing Tick Pop's wife.
My character, if I remember, was a woman called Inez. There were aspects of Inez that were aspects of Sade, believe it or not. So, you know, like a no-nonsense woman, and she ran things. Inez was the partner of Tick Pop, Tony Thompson.
Lemuel Rice was the rambunctious, rum-guzzling. Wow. Sade was the tough Bajan wife, the phrase too sweet. And whenever she do me anything or whatever she did to Lemuel will tell her, yes, too sweet. And subsequently, I don't like the phrase because I never ever felt that it belonged to me. When people call me Tony Too Sweet Thompson, I don't embrace it because I never said I was sweet. I never had any inclination. It was always that Sade, Inez, that was the first wife, and that was a great time with Inez.
One of the things that I remember, he would drink rum and then he would, like the typical village rum shop man, he would get in the shop and he would play that, he's so sexual and all that. And I walked into the shop and he was trying to give me the impression that drinking rum makes him this tiger, this tiger. And I blew his bubble in the shop when I told the shopkeeper that he really was no use. When he's drinking, he's drunk, and all he's able to do is sleep. So there were these moments, and the two of us, we represented what was typical in the village, what was typical in the community of Barbados. You had a man, you lived with him, and he spent most of his time in the rum shop.
And I have a story I must tell you. I was in one particular, I was working in Belleville at the time, and there was a little shop on the corner of Collingwood Rock and Belleville Road. It's shut now. There's a little shop in the corner. And I was in there one lunchtime, getting, may I say, just a juicy, and they did a wonderful cheese cutter and a juicy. No, alcohol, no lunchtime, no. And the two fellows were arguing. Now, the argument, quite heated, was around a word. The word was but. What's but? The man asked. But? As in but you? As in but you? No, but. What does the word but mean? What is but? And this went on. And I said to myself, you know, in a rum shop, a discussion about language could only be Barbados because of the education. Because people had gone to sound primary schools and they knew language. It couldn't happen elsewhere, but Barbados, yes. Discussion about a word like but. And eventually it was resolved. But, and I'm trying to get the expression right, because he stretched it to emphasize it, but is a conjunction. And the fella didn't know what a conjunction was. And what school you went in? A big argument about not getting a good school. And he explained what a conjunction was. But what fascinated me about it was the word but. A, because it was in a rum shop discussion. But in dramatic DNA, in the structure of drama, the word comes up. Because in drama, it's shaped by characters having an objective. That's what makes a drama. A character has an objective. He wants something. He has an objective. Throughout the play, there is an objective, a through-line objective to the end. But there's also objectives in each scene. As he comes on stage, you have to ask the actor, what do you want in this scene? And go for it. You go for it through an action. After objective, you have an action. Action is playing either by word or by physical event. You play what you want to achieve. How do you want to achieve it is the action. How do you want to achieve your objective? But, and this is a critical word, but to make the drama work, you have to have an obstacle, something that prevents you gaining your objective, preventing you from finding a way to achieve your objective. There is an obstacle. Often a person, sometimes a social situation, sometimes a major crisis. Look at Romeo and Juliet, when there are two families that hate each other. They hate each other, but the two lovers love each other. But the obstacle, clearly, the but is the fact that one family don't talk to the other family. So the but becomes a critical question in dramatic narrative. It shapes the drama. The obstacle shapes the drama. And then there's other things. There's environment. You place the action within a space. It has to have a physical space, a specific physical space, and a time, historical time, and daily time. Does it occur at night, daytime, whatever. These are important elements. And of course, there are characters. But anyway, it's a part of a drama. But I knew from before, from teaching drama, that but was an important. So when I heard this conversation about but, it sort of rung. I said, this is a remarkable conversation about but in the rum shop. So the rum shop became a very central thesis in the development of the drama. And so much so that before we established Laff-it-Off, we knew it was going to be set in a rum shop. It was going to be set in a rum shop, where language is free. You can express yourself fairly freely and emotionally without hindrance. And the refreshment often helps that freedom of expression, shall we say. And so before we went into anything like a rehearsal, we knew it was going to be set in a rum shop.
Let me tell you what the name, Nook and Cranny. Tom has this here, along with, I think, Camo is one of the other people. There's a very interesting thought, it's a very intellectual thought, that the geological formation of an island, of a country, is somehow related to the cultural behavior. So like Trinidadian and oil, it's slick, and Jamaican bauxite, it rah. And Barbados had this whole thing now with gullies and caves and coralline, coral. I mean, coral, like, that's a Laff-it-Off line anyhow. But he understood that it had nooks and it had crannies. So when we introduced that, somebody in the cast, or maybe Tom himself, came up with the idea, will the bar be called the Nook and Cranny? Because in reality, the bar is there. I think it is still very much there. The bottom of my gap where is at 2nd Avenue Waterhall land, Ralph Gray's, he's departed, Ralph Gray's shop. In fact, the clothes that Cranston Pollard, Wendell Smith, the legendary Wendell Smith, wore, the shirt and the khaki pants and the straw hat, were actually clothing that belonged to the late Ralph Gray's.
His wife was Nuxina.
That character was created by Michelle Barrow.
I was just there for a year. I was Nuxina Pollard, the wife of H. Cranston Pollard, Esquire, proprietor of the Nook and Cranny Bar. And that bar, Nook and Cranny, the Nook comes from my name, Nuxina, and Cranny would have been Cranston. And I was a voice off stage, and I had to find that Nuxina voice, which was very high-pitched and sometimes frightening. I was not a member of cast because, hey, I wasn't working with Stage 1, and Stage 1 was kind of the picking area of all. So I went to the show. I laughed and laughed and laughed. It was unusual. It was amazing. It was so immediate. It was great theater. And I remembered there was this character off stage that we never saw. But she sang on Earth and Other Places. And she was outstanding, and her voice was like, ah! I mean, it really was a screech. And the audience would laugh, and anytime she had a moment again, we never saw her, she would screech something and we would laugh.
We never saw her. We only heard her until coming to the end of the production, where she came out. And then all hell erupted.
In the end, in that first show, Nuxina came out to sing what her husband called an operatic aria, which was me making up an opera. And I think it changed every night. But I would sing in that high-pitched voice. And it was very fun because you also had to keep a straight face, yes, while you were singing this made-up opera. I would stand like this and I would sing, something along those lines. And every night the opera would change. So you weren't sure, what my operatic aria would be. But my husband, Cranston, would stand there looking very proud of me that I knew such a thing as opera. He was very proud of his Nuxina.
Aye, it's true.
It's true.
Oh, man.
And I enjoyed working with the late Wendell Smith. He was very, very, very funny.
Very funny.
A dry kind of funny. Yes? And he was also very encouraging to a young actress, because I was young in those days, very young. I didn't continue on with the program because I left Barbados by the following year, and that was it for me with Laff-it-Off. But I think that it set a tone. After bringing out Nuxina,
you couldn't not have another Nuxina. And so someone else carried on the role of Nuxina Pollard. I think it was Dr. Marcia Burrows. And that was my experience. It was an enjoyable experience. And I'm very proud that I was part of that first cast.
And so the curtain falls on this, the first installment of our mini-series celebrating the phenomenal contribution that Laff-it-Off Productions Incorporated has made to Barbados through the transformative power of community theatre. As we reflect on their journey of 40 years, it becomes clear that Laff-it-Off, My Community, and the national celebration of We Gatherin 2025 are inextricably linked, each playing a vital role in fortifying our nation. Together, they remind us that the arts, our shared heritage, and the spirit of coming together are all integral to the building of a stronger, more united Barbados. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. The series continues next week at the same time. In the meantime, do take good care of yourself and look out for the interests of your neighbors as we continue to gather in 2025.